Welcome to Voices of Experience. In the next half hour, we'll explore the 2012 Marriage Amendment and how it affects retirees. And we'll look at the issues involved and especially how that affects retirees. So I'm Dan Michael, President Emeritus of the Minnesota State Retiree Council, afl-cio, and I will be the host of today's program. Joining us today is Donald McFarland, campaign spokesperson for the Minnesotans United for All Families. Donald McFarland, welcome to Voices of Experience.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, let's get started. Donald, what is this marriage amendment that's going to be on the ballot in November 2012?
Earlier this year, the state legislature voted to place on the 2012 November ballot a question regarding same-sex marriage, and the question will ask voters to vote yes or no on whether the definition of marriage should be solely between one man and one woman.
So that's the question that's asked. Is it between one marriage? Should it be between one man and one woman?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Isn't there already a law to that effect in Minnesota?
There is, which made all of this very curious. It's certainly redundant. You know, it speaks to the question with all that the legislature had to deal with this past spring, why they would choose to focus their time and energy on this. It doesn't really make any sense because there is indeed a law already.
So why the people who want this, why do they want to put it into an amendment?
Well, you know, I think that in 29 or 30 other states, they've done this, and by they, it's the National Organization of Marriage, and soon this out-of-state organization will come here and try to tell Minnesota voters what they believe the definition of marriage is. But they've done this in several other states and put this into the Constitution.
So it's very, very difficult then to unchange it if it's in the Constitution. If it's
Correct.
a law, it can be undone by a future legislature.
Yeah, it would take a lot of work to undo it.
Yeah, so you are the spokesperson for a coalition entitled Minnesotans United for All Families. What organizations belong to your coalition?
Well, that's a great question. The coalition is growing every day. I believe as of this morning, we're over 70 organizations strong. And the coalition consists of political parties, the Minnesota DFL Party, the Independence Party, the Green Party, the Libertarian Party. We're excited that we have faith congregations, small businesses. We're excited that we have elected leaders and community leaders from the progressive organizations. We have organized labor on board. So it really is a broad spectrum of support behind the work that we're doing and behind the efforts to defeat this amendment.
Okay. Now we're in the 21st century, even for retirees, and we all have our hands at technology, or we can ask grandchildren to help us. Do you have a website?
We do have a website, mnunited.org. I encourage everyone who's watching the program today to visit mnunited.org. Folks can go there, they can make a contribution to the campaign, but they can also go there and sign up to volunteer.
Okay, what kind of material is on the website besides the sign up to volunteer or to give some money?
Well,
what else can you find there?
Sure. We have a lot of information on upcoming events. There is a pledge to vote card where folks can fill it out and sort of put that vote already in the bank to defeat the amendment. There's also a great part of our website called Minnesota Stories, and Minnesota Stories highlights stories of families across Minnesota, families like yours and mine, that really speak to what this is about, what this amendment is about, and it really is about families. And so I encourage folks again to go to mnunited.org and read the Minnesota Stories. There are some great stories, same-sex couples, heterosexual couples, all kinds of couples are highlighted with their families, and they're great stories.
Okay. This question of gay marriage, is this a type of question like many others where reasonable people can have reasonable differences of opinion and have intellectual discourse on nuances, or does this edge over to the gut-wrenching emotional type issue?
It It's an emotional issue. It's a very emotional issue, and I will say it's an emotional issue for folks on both sides of same-sex marriage. I know for folks that are so opposed to this amendment, it's very gut-wrenching and emotional because it's about their families, it's about their loved ones, it's about protecting their families, it's about their children. So absolutely this is gut-wrenching. Facts can be played with a little bit, but the reality is, again, this is about families. This is about spending the rest of your life with the person that you fall in love with and growing old together through good times and bad times and having a family and having the ability to protect that family. That's pretty personal.
That's very, very, very close to people's hearts. Yeah. You mentioned in the coalition members labor.
Yes.
And why does Minnesota afl-cio care about this issue?
Well, I think the Minnesota afl-cio and other labor unions are very supportive of the work we're doing and are behind us and working with us every day to defeat this because they've seen the attacks on rights. They've seen the attacks on rights of their workers. They've seen attacks on the dignity of their workers, and they understand that the far right is really trying to wedge us all against one another. They look at what just happened in Wisconsin, for instance. We really need to stand together. We're so grateful for organized labor. We're so excited that unions like SEIU, Minnesota State Council, AFSCME Council 5, the Minnesota afl-cio, MAPE, St. Paul Federation of Teachers are all already on board and working with us.
Okay. So in labor terms, a worker is a worker is a worker.
I would agree.
And a human being is a human being is a human being. And so yeah, we are very concerned. In your opening comments, you said that this just came about in the 2000 state legislature, and as I recall, when the 2011 legislature convened, we had these solemn promises by the new majority, the Republican majority, that this session is going to be about jobs, jobs, jobs.
I remember that.
Yeah. Where are the jobs?
Well, I don't know where the jobs are. I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to is something that we talked about just a moment ago, and that's at a time when this state faced a $5 billion deficit, these far-right Republican legislators and a few DFL legislators chose to focus their time on same-sex marriage. So I don't know where the jobs are, but those folks certainly didn't spend their time trying to find them or create them. That I can say. Okay.
And you mentioned that that a lot of time was spent on this issue by the proponents of gay marriage. What should they have been spending their time on?
Well, I think it's so jobs. Yeah. There's a $5 billion deficit that was facing the state again, and instead of focusing on that, they chose to focus on same-sex marriage. I think that many of these legislators were elected for economic reasons, for fiscal reasons. Yeah. They certainly didn't focus on economic or fiscal reasons. They chose to focus on these social wedge and divisive issues. Yeah.
So we have serious budget issues. We have serious tax issues, to which they are not easy answers.
Yep, but it's very unfortunate that that's what happened.
Yeah. Who are the supporters of the amendment?
Well, so it was brought to us by and large, some far-right Republican legislators. There were a few DFL legislators that joined them. So this wasn't just one party. I do want to make that clear. There are 3 organizations that are our opposition that are proposing this amendment, and that's the Minnesota Catholic Conference, the Minnesota Family Council, and the National Organization of Marriage, known as NOM, who have been through the country funding many of these efforts.
And will this amendment be a well-funded campaign on either side or both sides? Or?
Well, when Senator Limmer first brought up the notion that he was going to bring forth this piece of legislation, he said that there was, right after he announced that the Minnesota Family Council announced that they had $4.7 million that they were willing to spend on this fight. So from the beginning, I have always said we need to raise at least $5 million. I think we need to raise more than that. How much we're still working on exactly what that number is, but it will be more than $5 million. So the answer to your question, will it be well funded? This is going to be a very expensive campaign. It's so unfortunate that we're spending millions of dollars in Minnesota and will spend millions of dollars in Minnesota when we have so many other problems that really could use that money and that attention.
I would suspect a fair chunk of that money would be spent on TV and radio.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So we'll see various types of ads.
Yes.
In talking with college students or recent college graduates, 20-somethings, 30-somethings, I get the response, why are you talking about this? Why is this the issue? So is the gay marriage issue, is it a generational type thing?
Well, I think to some degree it is. The volunteers in our office are, by and large, 19 years old, 20, 21 years old, and they're volunteering because they don't understand why this is happening. They don't understand why we're taking all of this time and energy to have this conversation about same-sex marriage. It's confusing to them. It's baffling. It makes no sense. They all have said the same thing. You can't do this to my friends. They have gay friends. Some of them are gay themselves, but most of them aren't. And they just don't understand why we're having this conversation. Folks my age, we're probably a little more angry. We've been doing this a very long time. But young people just don't understand, and they are not in favor of this amendment at all.
And people my age are totally evolving on the issue, because when we were growing up, this is not the subject of gay marriage. Was I don't ever recall being discussed at all, or even the fact of that there are gay people. It just growing up in a very innocent time, so to speak, very sheltered time, and not aware of the rich diversity in our culture.
And I think that's part of the work that we have to do in the next 14 months. We have to make sure that we're telling our stories to not just our friends and colleagues and coworkers, but we have to tell our stories to our grandparents, sisters and brothers, to our grandparents' friends. We have to talk to senior citizens. They know gay people, and we have to make sure that they understand that marriage matters to us, and we have to help them along. They need to know that this is really important to us.
Okay, let's back off from that type of issue for just a bit, and let's talk about some nuts and bolts. Okay. So far, in 2011, the legislature passed a bill authorizing that the question of a marriage between a man and a woman will be on the ballot in November 2012. Did the governor weigh in on the bill?
The governor did weigh in on the bill, and we're so grateful for that. So the Minnesota legislature has the power to place a constitutional amendment question on the ballot without that piece of legislation going past the governor. Now, it did go past the governor, but he didn't have the ability to veto it, more accurately. The governor did weigh in on it. As a matter of fact, on that Saturday night when the House put this on the ballot, Governor Dayton stood up at the Capitol and said, "This is un-Minnesotan. This is not how we treat people in Minnesota," and we were very proud of the governor for that.
But technically speaking, he did not have to sign it as he would have to sign a normal bill, or he did not have the opportunity to veto the bill. It goes right from the legislature to the ballot.
That's correct.
Yeah. So on the ballot, then, what percentage of